Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red. It is Saturday, the 10th of May, and in the words of Bob Marley, the sun is shining and the weather is sweet. I am hoping wherever you are in the world is exactly like where I am, because just outside of Edinburgh, there's people traffic galore. Everyone is sunbathing. Everyone is enjoying their time, and everyone's enjoying us being the champions right now as well, aren't they? Because in simple terms, it's just brilliant. But transfers are the order of the day. That's what we're talking. Names, other stories. You know how we roll on the Daily Red. We'll talk you through all the normal things that are coming up at the moment. So let's get into it straight away, ladies and gentlemen. What are the stories? So I'll bring those up on my screen there. So the big ones at the moment, as you can see, there's a few bits from Jan from Melbourne on the Spot around Adam Wharton. God, we'd love to manifest that one, wouldn't we? And at the same time, the game against Arsenal, which is still the focus of the weekend. We can't pretend about that at all. But here's where we've got to start. Conor Bradley and the embargo that came out from Arne Slot. The normal 10:30. So important to say, he mentioned Conor Bradley and Trent, didn't he, yesterday? If you saw the press conference, he talked about that if Conor Bradley was fit, he would have started against Chelsea, and he's going to get the starts now going forward at the same time. So it's really important to keep all of that in mind. That be interesting to see how he does, how much will we see Trent, if at all. But let's talk Conor Bradley. And why are we talking Conor Bradley? Because Arne Slot compared him to Hakimi, the PSG right back. Okay. Now, that might seem a bit wild, but it was mentioned in the embargo, and he talked about Conor Bradley being his own unique style as well. So I'm not going to give too much away on that, but well worth a read. I like Conor Bradley, and I get the whole idea of, what's the phrase? Hyping him up, building him up, however you wish to describe it. Maybe the Hakimi bit's just a little bit too far, though, for me. I've got to say that in all honesty. We back our players. You want to hype them up. But, yeah, and the other line I would also mention from the embargo is he talked about, with Trent going, Liverpool make new stars. And I would implore you to have a bit of a read of the interview, have a watch back of the press conference as well, because there were some brilliant things on there. No two ways about it. But this is what's drawing the headlines. Jeremie Frimpong, a Marmite player, if you look at people's reactions on social media. And why am I saying that? Because people seem to be now all in or raising the concerns galore. And you'll define where you stand on this. But he's got to be mentioned, because Paul Joyce had in his article out last night around Conor Bradley that Jeremie Frimpong is the leading candidate should Liverpool look to strengthen at right back. Andy Hunter had it in The Guardian. Fabrizio Romano, it does seem this is the hot name. That would be fair to say, isn't it? And people are going to be mixed on this. People are going to be mixed on this, whatever you say. People will look at certain things, and this is factual as we talk about it now. They'll say 24, great age. Homegrown, because of the way he comes through the City Academy. So that'll be on the tick list as well. Absolutely rapid. And if for anyone's doubting that at all, if you go to the Bundesliga, who publish their physical metrics, I mean, look at that speed, KMH, 36.34. Electric. So that's another one that comes into the mix. People will talk about his sprints, 983, leading the Bundesliga as well. So from those physical elements, that goes on the tick list. You've probably seen at the same time a lot of talk around the fee, because it's a 35 million euro release clause, which is around the 30 million quid mark if you get them exchanged at Tesco. But more importantly, as a lot of journos have now reported, that can be broken down over 4 installments, can't it? It's about £7.5 million a year, which is, if you're genuinely honest, a Michael Edwards style deal, isn't it? That there's a lot of things in the tick column. Other things in the tick column can cover right back, be an alternative there, could cover Salah, as people are saying, could allow Salah to move inside. Yeah. That's all factual. You can't argue with any of that. But I don't want to be hypocritical on this at all, because me and Trev spoke about all that on the transfer show and said, I get that. And people are already shouting about, Slot's coach. And I understand that at the same time. Red Armchair supporter there saying, with Slot coaching, Frimpong could be very good for us. Also, there's a few people have implored possible system change as well, or system flexibility, a different skill set, if you want to call it that. So I said this on the transfer show. The way when we went digging, me and Trevor, it was described to us, said, think a bit like a Shaqiri, think a bit like a Minamino. It might not be exactly perfect, but the value, the data when it's been crunched makes it worth it. So I'm going to be honest that from all the noise, all the speculation now, I think we're all going to be a little bit surprised if Frimpong doesn't come through the door. However, Michael Edwards loves a smokescreen more than the Pope's chimney, doesn't he? So that could be in the mix as well. But I think we'd be surprised now. And the fact that Paul Joyce has mentioned it in his column as well, you've got to steer into it. And if we're going to steer into it, we've done it a bit before, but yeah, I mean, you look across the Bundesliga and the Champions League, 4 goals, 8 assists, so 12 goal contributions to those big 2 competitions, which is lower than normal a bit. His profile, it's so hard to analyse because he's really nothing like Conor Bradley, is he? You can do that, but he really isn't anything like Conor Bradley. And when you look at his metrics against fullbacks, remember, he's got a profile for an attacking midfielder and winger. That's important to mention. So much green in the middle third. That's his strength, isn't he? Touches in the attacking penalty area, progressive passes received, 11 a game, 99th percentile on both of those. But then you've got to be honest at the same time, you look at his defensive metrics, and the highest one is 33rd percentile of blocks compared to other fullbacks. Yeah? Interceptions, 3rd percentile. Tackles isn't too bad because that's not how we normally do it, but 4th percentile. So, yeah, there's just, you can't ignore the concerns. I don't think you can ignore the question marks around Frimpong. However, you do get the feeling this one's going to be done, don't you? I think we're all in that mix. We'd all be a little bit surprised if it didn't get done. And this is one I wanted to share. You may already have seen it, but people have talked and said, well, Dutch lad, like, yes, Dutch, as in he represents them internationally, but just have a listen to this if you've not come across this Rising Ballers interview before. It's only a 30-second one.
There were scouts there like Liverpool, Bolton, Man City, and a lot more. But I chose Liverpool first. And I was going to sign for them, but back then, driving wasn't a thing, Like, my family weren't driving like that. And it was far.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously, Man City was local. So then I tried Man City next. And it made more sense. So it was 15 minutes on the bus.
I mean, yeah, Dutch international, but as you can clearly hear there as well, from the Manchester area, isn't he? So that will probably work as in his favour as well, won't it? And if you've seen all the reports, they all say to a reporter, he's keen to make the move. And of course he is. No disrespect to Leverkusen, but he wants to come to us, the champions, back to England. So you get all that as well. There's just so many questions around this, but like it or not, and I said at the top of the show, I would call it Frimpong Marmite signing for many. In simple terms, it's 30 million quid spread over 4 years. That ticks a Michael Edwards box. He's homegrown. Well, he would count as homegrown because of his time in the City Academy. That ticks a box. He's rapid, over 36 kmh. That ticks a box. Good age, 24. That ticks a box. The fact that long-term implications as well means we can flex the system. There's a different player with a skill set there as well. Probably it's the ultimate death, although we already knew this, of Federico Chiesa as well. So that comes into the mix. All that stacked up, as we said, is why it's got that feeling of a Shaq, a Minamino. Even if this doesn't work out, then yeah, probably the resale value's there. And ultimately, maybe the main thing comes down that if you get Frimpong for 30 million or just under 30 million, he's worth more as soon as he comes through the door, which is another big tick for Michael Edwards that way. People already going, we've got Malcolm Billington there. Welcome to Anfield, Frimpong, home with the champions. It does feel that way, doesn't it? And imagine if it's Frimpong and Kirkes. Frimpong and Kirkes. Sam Maguire did a great treat on it, going, Liverpool fullbacks go vroom. They will just be rapid. But Christ, the demands on Van Dijk, hopefully Canate, if he's still there. Maybe, the midfield as well. Maybe the speed's going to come through fullbacks. Maybe, as a few have alluded to, does this not have a 2017 to 19 feel? Do you remember when those two, the wingmen, was it the wingmen, the series they did, but just about the fullbacks bombing on? Yeah. I think we've got to brace ourselves, whether you like it or not, people, that Frimpong is probably heading to Anfield. But could be a smokescreen, like we said. We'll have to see what develops. Other stories in terms of players, and I'm probably going to balls it up completely, the pronunciation here. But this player, Mikel Jalgiza, I think it's pronounced. I probably got it wrong, but I wonder if there's a bit of recency bias as well with this player. And the reason I'm saying that is he scored against them the other night, didn't he, for Bilbao? So that drew him into the mix. But linked last night, wasn't he, with a move that Liverpool have been watching him. And we've said on the transfer show and various things that I know everyone wants the name, like Jan Molby mentioned, about a Wharton, a Baleba, whichever camp, there seem to be the two names, don't they sit in. And I would love to be saying we've got news on them, but that doesn't seem to be the way. It seems to be, as we said, we've heard the names of Sugo, who's picked Chelsea, Bischoff, who unfortunately has picked Bayern, was the other one that Liverpool had a real look at. The other names on the mix, Kone at Reims, as we said, that Liverpool, it doesn't seem to be the headline midfielder. It seems to be a supplementary name that way. And Malcolm mentioned in there about Stiller, as we also said on the transfer show around Angela Stiller, our info is they're looking at him, but it is more as a squad option rather than a starter. And that's why there's a fair bit of distance between ours and Stuttgart's price right now. So let's talk, if I'm probably pronouncing it right, Mikel Jalgiza. We'll go with that. 21 years old, midfielder. Now, can also play as a DM, has played there when we sort of dug on this a little bit with a few Bilbao and Spanish-based journalists, that does play occasionally at DM, but is more of a central midfielder, can go a little box to box and can be quite physical as well, which I think sounds okay. There's a few of those journalists, because, I won't pretend I've watched him week in, week out. I'm not going to lie at all, but say still raw. And you look at some of his metrics, standout there is 95th percentile for tackling, isn't it? But again, our midfielders, it is more about interceptions, blocking the passing lanes, as we talk about on transfer market metrics, but strong in the air as well. That's important to say. This is where you draw your concerns for a Liverpool midfielder, because the way we play with Slot, the style that we have as well at the same time. To be in the 43rd percentile for passes attempted and a pass completion in the 31st percentile. Now, 80.9, essentially 81, isn't it? Not bad, but it is well below Liverpool averages, just to be absolutely clear on that. So I'm really struggling to see this. And Bilbao, I mean, the other things, as a few people have mentioned, it's hard to put a price on this, but they're expecting to potentially, unless they might get Champions League, sell Nico Williams. So they don't let their players go cheap because of their Basque requirements at the same time as well. So I could be wrong, but based on when we've gone digging and trying to find it, again, a lot of the Spanish journalists and, the ones who cover Bilbao are telling us that they can't see it, as in it's a leap too far for this kid just now. And in terms of other players, I mean, it's totally unfair to do this. But if you overlay him on Maka, because Maka, again, is a player that, plays the 8 and can also play the 6. We don't want him to, but, let's just be factual here. You see it. Absolutely dwarfs this kid. And it is an unfair comparison before you all shout out about that. But I don't see this one. Could be, but it's not a name, again, from digging with Spanish journalists and different people, that we've got at all. So we'll see if anything does develop with this link. And I'm probably absolutely butchering his name. So massive apologies to all Spanish fans, but it is what it is. Something that is cheery, which could be seen as negative, but I don't think we should be. I think Darwin Nunez, one way or the other, is going to bag us a fat fee. Don't know if anyone saw the Ian Doyle story in the Echo yesterday, and it's been mentioned, and Sam Maguire had that exclusive in January as well. Al Hilal, for the Club World Cup, are apparently trying to get this deal sorted for Darwin Nunez. Now, I think the one thing we're all certain of in Liverpool's recruitment or summer business is Darwin Nunez is going to leave. I think we're all pretty certain of that. It's more about where and how much. Because we had the Sam Maguire story, didn't we, in the week, that Liverpool will countenance a discount fee for Nunez if it can be used for Julian Alvarez, which is a proper manifestation come to Papa style moment, isn't it? Because we'd love to get Julian Alvarez through the door, no matter how creative the accountants need to get and how much they need to take Todd Bowley's sort of style there. Who cares if you can get Alvarez through the door? However, it does seem a bit of a struggle, that, doesn't it, really, if we're honest? We'd love to see it, but it's a big jump. So if not that, let's play on what Saudi are trying to do. Saudi are trying to make a big splash in this Club World Cup. We absolutely know that. So if we can get 70 million or so, or even more, out of them for Nunez and can have him almost celebrating with us in the parade on the 26th and disappearing for the 1st, brilliant. But maybe the best parting gift we think Darwin Nunez can give us is he's either going to be swapped or bring in some serious dosh, isn't he? Which is what everyone wants. We'll see what happens there. Interview-wise, speaking of another forward, this is brilliant, by the way. Then if anyone's seen the Mo Salah or read the Mo Salah interview with French Football magazine, funnily enough, the people who are involved with the Ballon d'Or, and I'm not going to say anything derogatory about Mo whatsoever. I thought it was brilliant. But there's a couple of snippets, because I won't give it you all, honestly. It's well worth a read, I would say. But Ismail Mahmoud, well-known journalist, covers a lot, obviously, around Salah, sort of streamed the quotes, if you want. I don't know what they call it now, probably getting it wrong, but put the quotes out from the interview galore. And the first one, which will draw headlines, is the Sadio Mane question. And he was asked it, so he's always going to respond honestly, Mo, asking about his relationship with Mane. So what did the Egyptian king say? He said, I scored a lot, 44 goals in my first season. And then Sadio told himself it was his turn to score more too. Yes, there was tension with Sadio. But look, we remain professional until the end, and I don't think it affected the team. It's natural for someone to want more, and I understand that he's a competitor. Off the pitch, we weren't very close, but we always respected each other. I honestly don't mind that. I'm going to be honest about both players. I obviously adore Mo. He's my favourite player. The Egyptian king is a walking demigod for me. Of course he is. I adored Sadio Mane. I thought he was a brilliant player. Let's not pretend he's not had a huge impact. We know he has in, our Liverpool supporting lives in recent times, but not all players get on. I think it's just that simple. And as Mo said, I think absolutely spot on. Professional. It didn't affect the team. Look at the trophies they won together. Yes, there might have been competition, and people will reference this about, remember when it blew up on the bench and Salah Mane was throwing a strop, and remember they had to be separated in the tunnel, and there was that Bobby kind of look, which was kind of funny back in the day, wasn't it? But yeah, Mane was a favourite. I mean, as LAPS there saying, Mane Sadio was my favourite. He will be a Liverpool legend as well. But at the same time, just is what it is. And in fact, we sold Sadio at the right time, didn't we? We got the peak out of him. He went to Bayern Munich, struggled, and now, not being derogatory, but he's in the right place for him, isn't he? Making a fortune, having fun in Saudi as well. So nothing wrong with those quotes, nothing too controversial, two legends there. This one I love more than anything. I'm not going to give you them all because I won't spoil it. I'll give you a chance to read them. He's asked about the Ballon d'Or. He said, I said that winning the Premier League this season was my main objective. It was the first time in my career I prioritised the league over the Champions League. It'd been such a heartbreak not being able to celebrate with our fans in 2020 because of the pandemic that I absolutely wanted, along with the whole team, to give that joy to our fans and to the city. 9 months later, promise kept. Puffed. Right in the feels from Mo Salah there. He promised us. He delivered on his promise. I think to see the player of the year vote, I think was it 90% or more? Mo Salah had the votes from the Football Writers Association one, sorry. Of course it has. And I love the way even he's phrased it. He's putting the fans first, saying, no, they want the Premier League. I'm going to deliver the Premier League. Yeah, honestly, I'm not going to show you them all because it would ruin it. But there's so many comments there, as you can see, sort of serialized from that interview, even about his new contract, about Arne Slot as well. I promise you, well worth 5 minutes or so of your time. You know who's not worth a full 5 minutes of our time? So we're not really going to get into it too much, but it is buzzing a bit in the chat panel. Fucking mountain nonce. Honestly, has anyone seen this that was out last night? I see the comments in the chat panel already about, it's a Fabrizio Romano, isn't it? Here we go. That it seems Martin Zubimendi is set to sign for Arsenal, a fat wage, and they will trigger that release clause because apparently in Arsenal there are mountains, paella, and all sorts of stuff, apparently. I mean, it's funny how football works, isn't it? There are always those sliding door moments in football. In an alternative universe, yeah, he would be playing for us, but it's not. And do you know what? Who cares too much? Love that Saigo pal. Just wants them to give us another guard of honour next season. I mean, I just don't get this one at all. I really don't. Especially that, I mean, if anyone's seen Sociedad have had a stinking season. And maybe, I don't know how interested people are in Martin Zubimendi, or clubs, I should say. You've seen all the briefings because people are saying, well, why haven't we jumped in? Well, all the press briefings were that Liverpool have been moved on. There's quite a few journalists, if you look back, have used that line. And I don't want to spend too long on Martin Zubimendi, but I think the ultimate thing as well is he's 26. Liverpool are not, you'd feel, going to give a big 5-6 year contract to a 26-year-old who isn't going to smash the needle through the roof. It's going to be a forward, isn't it, that we're looking at if that's going to be the case. So I think we've moved on. And do you know what? Maybe it's telling, people take this how they want, that he's ending up at Arsenal. It's not only the big clubs, because a lot of people thought Real Madrid would come in, didn't they? That was what we were hearing a lot. So we mentioned that on the transfer show. But if it's Arsenal, yeah. And I get what Dark Knight's saying there. We haven't moved past his profile, maybe, but you think we'd be in for him, wouldn't you? We'll just have to see how he gets on. But yeah, you expect Martin Zubimendi to be in Arsenal's side next season. Enough of that away, because it's about Liverpool and it's about all the content we can bring you. Honestly, look at the level of this content. We are throwing out more than Harvey Price's iPads here, because if you look at it, look at this just in the last day or so. You had me and Trev covering Liverpool, the Premier League, and Europe there as well. You had David Lynch previewing Arsenal and Jan Molby actually previewing Arsenal to watch as well. Me and Bart on Transfer Market Metrics. We ran a Nori after that story came out against Kirkes. We ran more on Sesko again after the stories about his release clause. We ran Angelo Stiller in more depth because a lot of people mentioned him, didn't they? And that story was sort of bubbling around. So there's those for you. Jan talked about Connor Bradley. Jan talked about Julian Alvarez and different bits there as well. Dave was talking about Vanderson. Jan was talking about Adam Wharton. Essentially, there are a million different bits of content for you there. If you're a YouTube style and you're watching, morning, afternoon to you, whatever time it is on this platform, but also you've got your normal downloads for the same format. So there is content out the wazoo to cover you through today. Some may be asking, why aren't you doing too much on Arsenal? Because naturally, the game is tomorrow, isn't it? So we'll really steer into that. But there's normal games on, and tomorrow there's a million different things. But right now, if you think of where we stand, ladies and gents, we're relaxed. The sun is shining. The weather is sweet. Let's enjoy our Saturday. There's nothing to stress about football-wise. Probably we're getting ready to wonder how much, just how much. Well, we know if Jeremie Frimpong is coming through the door. We'll see what else drops throughout the weekend. But on Saturday, the 10th of May, enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend, people. That was another Daily Red for Anfield Index.